Episode 80, Terror of the Zygons. Last we met our TARDIS team, they had completely saved Nerva Beacon from destruction and destroying the planet of gold, Virga, completely killing the Cybermen once and for all. And they received a text message from the Brigadier telling them that he needed their help and an emergency system that the doctor left for him. And now we are here.
Gasp!
In the Highlands.
Oh!
Well, not really. It's actually Sussex. But
oh. Oh!
It's made to look like the Highlands.
Oh!
So, dear, what happens in Terror of the Zygons?
Lots of terror. I'm very scared.
Oh, okay. It's okay. Don't be scared. Shh. Deep breath. Deep breath. In and out. 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 And pass out.
Okay, maybe don't do that to the person who has heart-lung problems.
That's alright. I have your nurse on speed dial.
I thought about that like halfway through. I was getting lightheaded. I was like, oh, shit.
It's just like, as you're passing out, you're just like, wait, hang on, maybe don't make the person who has heart problems do this. This is a bad idea.
So we see an oil rig with a man inside who wants haggis, but then the radio screams at him and the entire oil rig breaks apart. The TARDIS crew is walking around the woods, and then they find a road and they steal a car. And then the doctor is driven up to where Unit is, because Unit is somewhere, and the Brigadier is talking over some bagpipes, and no one can fucking understand shit. Uppity guy who drove them there is like, hey, motherfuckers, if your men keep coming on my land, I'm gonna fucking shoot them. This isn't a joke.
Stop your men coming.
Yes. And then we see on the beach that there's a dead body for a second. Anyway, don't worry about that. Doctor is upset that some shit, he's got called here for some shit at sea, but he's like, all right, let's check it out. And then Harry and Sarah fuck off, and the brig talks about oil rigs looking like spiders and how they're supposed to be unsinkable. Anyway, don't worry, it's fine. Sarah goes to talk to a seventh son of a something. He thinks he's psychic.
Of your mum.
And he's like, why is the uppity man so angry? And then we cut to some calamari ass fucking hands pushing buttons and watching the conversations happening.
Excuse you, they're not pushing buttons.
They're gently caressing them.
They're caressing the buttons.
Can we also bring up that the buttons are extremely fleshy and
they're extremely fleshy
moist.
And phallic.
They're also kind of like wet.
Really, I'm gonna cut in real quick just because I wanna bring up like how much I love the visual design of the Zygons and like their ship. Like obviously the execution is not the best because low budget in 70s, but like the just like the creative vision of it is really unique and cool. Like, oh okay, they're like this aquatic like fetus like tentacle like alien race, and like of course they don't just have like normal sleek metal panels with buttons and dials that you press and everything. It's like no, it's like organic and like tendrils and everything. Yeah. It's really cool.
But also they look like the Grinch, like Jim Carrey's The Grinch.
They look like
like they have like the
makeup has like that round like spherical over the nose that makes them look more like the Grinch, and like the way that they're
all the little wrinkles and
their
stuff.
Foreheads are like inset.
Yeah, very much so. So you remember that dead body?
Yes,
it's alive now and walking. And then there's also a man in a kilt walking around with a gun and sees him. And then the dead man finds Henry and talks to him for a bit. And then the gunman just kills both of them. So he was dead, he was alive, and now he's dead again. Sarah comes to talk to the doctor, and they talk about jamming some local radio and shit, but then there's a call that Harry was shot! Oh my god! And the calamari are still gently massaging and flicking all the fleshy little buttons, whispering gently in ASMR fashion. Under the ocean, there might be a big ol' thing, apparently, because the other rig is now calling in and getting distortion and shit. Harry is still in shock, maybe a coma, I don't know. And the brig is like, "Doctor, please," and everyone's very mad. And then the doctor shows off that to the brig that the piece of the oil rig they have has weird marks on it. So it's time to make papier-mâché crafts. And he makes a cast of, like, the hole and shows that it's teeth, apparently. So it's a sea monster. And the calamari are like, "Oh no, they're onto us." And then Sarah goes to tell the doctor, and the nurse is like, "It's okay, Harry, I'm here, I'll kill you quickly, hee." And then Sarah gets caught by a calamari, because she went to go tell the doctor that Harry woke up, and she just gets, like, fucking caught. A lot.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sarah's dead.
Yeah.
And Harry's still dead, in bed.
He got shot, so
And
there's that.
good. So, real quick, there is a thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of these. I learnt about these after I bought this DVD for the first time because back when I was a kid, I had time to look at all the special features on everything, and like that was great times. One of the Easter eggs on the DVD is something called Disney Time 1975.
What?
And I had to learn what the fuck these were. So this was a yearly thing that Disney did. It was like a program that they did, basically advertising all the things that they did.
Disney owns
It ran in the
Doctor Who?
UK. No, Disney does not own Doctor Who, thank fuck. That would be disgusting. But it was basically a yearly thing of like, hey, here's all the things that are coming out. Here's the things that came that are already out right now. Go look at all the Disney things. They usually have like someone, a host, talking to you about everything. For instance, in previous years, they had John Pertwee was on it. Not as the Third Doctor, just as the actor. They had the guy who played Ian Chesterton, the first Doctor's companion, not in the show, but in the movie adaptation that we really should do a podcast episode on sometime. I don't know, might make that like a Patreon goal or something. That we watch. I've never watched them. They've got Grand Moff Tarkin. I keep forgetting his name. From Star Wars. He's the Doctor in it, and it's like it's really weird. But people love them, and I don't know. But anyway, this year, 1975,
Peter
Tom
Cushing?
Baker hosted it. Peter Cushing, that's his name. Thank you. Thank you for Googling that.
Yep.
Tom Baker was on it this year, 1975 Disney time, but not as Tom Baker, as the Fourth Doctor. And so it's like you get all these little bits of him walking around Disney theaters, a Disney theater in London, asking a passerby if he knows Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse or Goofy because he's trying to find them. And the Doctor is like saying that he was passing the planet Mars in the TARDIS and he realized he hadn't seen Mickey and the gang in a long time, which is like, okay. So he like goes into the theater and then it's like talking about all these things coming out, and it's like he starts to tell the story of Mowgli, and starts, talking about the Jungle Book. And then it's like starts talking about all these like live action Disney movies as well, like Apple Dumpling Gang and Escape to Witch Mountain, not the Rock one, the old one. And like there's clips of it as well to like, get the audience interested. It was basically like a long infomercial program with like little bits of entertainment here, which like, Disney is really good at. Bed knobs and broomsticks, like all of these things. And then at the end, the Doctor sitting in the theater is like, oh, wow, an anonymous hand comes up between the rows with a piece of note and hands it to him. And he's like, oh, what's this? And he's like, oh, the Brigadier sent me a message saying that he's in trouble again and he needs my help. I'll see, like, I gotta go, see you next Saturday, kids. And it's like, they use that to lead into this episode, which is such a weird thing. I don't know. I just thought it would be interesting to bring up because, like, the concept of Disney time is like so fascinating to me. but also makes way too much sense. Anyway, back to this story. Welcome back to Unit. Welcome back to Earth. Welcome back to Scotland. Some beautiful sets, beautiful little things. Also, as I kind of jokingly said earlier, it's not Scotland, it's Sussex. Don't worry about it. Easier for them. As we kind of stated previously, this episode was meant to be the end of season 2, but it got pushed back to season 13 because of, a lot of other things happening around other episodes and such. So that's why this episode feels a bit weird, especially in certain ways at the very end, but we'll get to that. But yeah, this is a new costume for the Doctor that he wears for like 5 minutes, but I used to tell Dear, like, no, this is what I'm dressed as for this entire season now, even though he's only in it for 5 minutes. But it's unique, and I'm pretty sure whenever they release the collection Blu-ray box set of season 13, he'll be in that fucking costume on the cover. So, yeah. Anyway, what happened in part 2, Dear?
Well, things. Also, the Doctor got rushed off to the hospital. Harry's gone, and when looking around, the Doctor has found Sarah in a fucking vault, which of course he just walks into and gets locked in. Harry is introduced to the warlord Calamari, by the way, so that's a thing. And the room that Hera and Sari are the ones that I keep fucking up, and I don't know why.
It's their ship name.
Is it?
No. I don't know anything about shipping with like Classic Who, except for one pairing that I do know, because I 100% agree with it, because the two of them, they're great together. Don't worry, we'll get to them in the 80s. You'll love them. Tegan and Nyssa, they're great. And they're great as like a couple, if you want to think of them as a couple.
I just want to get to the lesbians, honestly. Anyway, that's not the point. The air is being sucked from them. Sarah and the Doctor, by the way. By the way, that fish that you saw that one time, it's an alien. The big old fish.
Blub, blub.
I call it an
blub.
eel for a while. The Doctor is terrifying and hypnotizes Sarah before yodeling a little bit, which saves his life. Because the Brigadier soldiers go in, because the Brigadier was being gassed and Benton saves everybody. The Doctor finishes orgasming when Benton comes in to help, and he's like, "Oh, I learned that from a monk. Hold on, let me save Sarah." Sarah!
Yeah. Fucking Benton goes to wake up Sarah because she's like in a trance, and the Doctor's like, no, you have to do it carefully, or she'll die. And then he just reaches over and like grabs her neck and just like gently like shakes her for like a second, and then she's like, And it's like, Dear and I just joked that like he's like, you have to wake her up properly, grabs her neck and violently shakes her and shouts at her to wake up.
See properly, Benton. Anyway. So outside, there's a fucking dinosaur eel fish thing that's walking around. The calamari are very upset because everyone is alive and they have a thing that they need. There was something that was left that they need. And Harry is taken away to be painted as a tasteful nude with the others who aren't actually dead, so that they can clone themselves to look like those people and take over their bodies. The nodule basically calls animals to it. I just think it's poop, personally. But apparently it's got 5G, so whatever. Time to look for Harry, but we found the soldiers attacked by the eel thing. And then Harry, quote unquote, comes back to talk to Sarah, steals the 5G device, and runs away quickly. And then Sarah gets some guards and they chase him. And it's a chase scene. And they go into a barn at one point. It's weirdly murder slasher Halloween-esque. For a hot second, like, it's very B-movie horror slasher.
There's kind of a reason for it, and it is not what you think it is.
Okay, we'll get to that then. But he falls off the top of the barn, and Sarah's like, "Oh my god, look!" And then she goes to get the soldiers, but when it comes back, the body's gone, so, whatever. Sarah's also like, we're being watched. And she saw the 5G poop move, and it's organic. So let's just get in a car with the poop and drive away very fast. But of course the doctor's car fucking breaks down, so then he gets out and just starts running, because that'll work. But the 5G poop is very hot and gets stuck to the doctor's hand, you know, when you, like, pick up some dog poop or something because you're, like, a nice person or, like, a good person. And it just, poop. And you miss with the bag a little bit, and then it's stuck to your hand, and you can't fucking get it off, and you do that shake thing, and it still doesn't fucking come off, and you're just like, ugh. Anyway, that's what it does. And the calamari are like, die, doctor, and the eel is ready to eat him. And that's it.
Electable. So, okay, so the sort of attack scene where there's like fog everywhere and it like turns into a weird slasher type thing. The reason it's like that is because the original thing that they had like planned out and were the original thing, they completely added the gas subplot to it, because originally there was no gas, but they were like, okay, the animation that we have for the Scarison, this monster thing, it looks ridiculous. We need to, like, it was basically just a point of like, okay, we need to, kind of the same thing with Jaws, where it's like the with Jaws, the problem, the reason why you don't see the shark there, show as little as possible. Not because like, oh, it'll make the audience scared more. That's more a byproduct. The real reason was because the prop never fucking worked, and it was awful when they showed it. So it was like, okay, we need to work around this, and the smart way to work around it is also a really good way to actually make it more scary and more horrifying, is make it more unseen, only show glimpses here and there, and like show the results of what's going on, and like you don't really see all of it. I can tell you right now, I have never seen a full shot of the costume, but I would fucking love to see footage of like the animation of the Scarison, because like if they thought it was silly, I want to see it. And it might be on some behind the scenes footage somewhere. I haven't had time to go look. One day I will find out, and I will be incredibly happy if I can find out. But yeah, that's why it's like that. It's a bit weird. Also, so apparently the scene where the Doctor and Sarah are in the hyperbolic no oxygen chamber, which is what I like to call it. Apparently that scene called for some physical prop that was too expensive or too large for them to, like, it was a practical special effect that they wanted to do, but it was too expensive for them to do, so they discarded it. And what happened was Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen were allowed to just write the scene themselves, which is something that you'll see a lot more of, where basically Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen will go, here, let's just make it like this. Like, let's, like, they know the characters. They like, hey, this will be more interesting. This will be more fun if we do this and say this. Which shows, like, you can see, like, this is one of my favorite episodes for Sarah, because she has so much fun with it, and, like, she has a personality. Like, she's smart. She figures things out before the Doctor even does. She, like, questions things, is like, hey, Doctor, what about this? And the Doctor's like, oh, you're right. And also, she has, like, an attitude to her. Like, everyone treats her, like, all the, like, Scottish kind of, quote-unquote, bad guys, kind of treat her kind of shitty. So it's, like, the one time where it's, like, in a future part, like, one of the guys comes in, puts down a ladder thing, and she just is just like, oh, is that for you because you can't reach the book up top? And then he just is quiet, walks out the room again, closes the door, and as he closes the door, she just sticks out her tongue at him. It's great. I love it when she has, like, a little bit of an attitude as, like, an actual person, not just like, oh, Doctor, I'm being kidnapped, which
Doctor, I'm a woman.
So many companions fall into. Doctor, I'm a woman.
Please.
Did you know, Doctor? I'm a woman.
Oh.
A woman, Doctor. Oh. Yes. So I love it for this. This is when Sarah and the Doctor get a lot better together, because like episodes from here on out, it's like they know their roles, they know what to do, they have a really good synergy with each other and have a lot of fun. It's like the sort of thing where it's like you can see it in characters very clearly, where it's like, okay, these two actors very clearly are good friends and they know their characters enough where it's like they clearly have fun with this.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, apparently Tom Baker was kind of a bit strained at this time. So one of the things that you'll find out as we talk about behind the scenes is that Tom Baker is kind of hard to work with, and he's kind of a bit of a dick. There's one director that he flat out refuses to work with because he would constantly have on-set arguments with them. But with this one, Nicholas Courtney, who plays the Brigadier, recalled that Tom Baker, his relationship with Tom Baker kind of changed during this shoot. Not for the better, though. Quote, he was less congenial and hypersensitive to criticism. I think he was off on his own plane, and the rest of us had to scramble to keep up with him. According to Courtney, the tension turned ugly once when Tom Baker was handed some uncomplimentary notes and lashed out. He had the part for a year and didn't take kindly to being treated like an incompetent neophyte.
That's a lot of words.
Yes, Nicholas Courtney was a man of many words. Unfortunately, he did pass away in, I believe it was it was either 2011 or 2012, I think he passed away, but he always had a strong relationship with Doctor Who. But he was always one to always talk a lot in interviews and use many words not known to a common vocabulary. But yeah, Tom Baker, we'll talk about it more as time goes on, especially in his final season, where it's like he does not want to be there at all. About how kind of hard to work with Tom Baker was. I don't know if he still is hard to work with. He mostly does voiceover work stuff nowadays, so I don't know if that changes things for him, but yeah. What happens in the next part, though, dear?
Well, Harry tried to intervene to save the Doctor and fucked up some stuff, and the Calamari are very upset by it. And then, sorry, the Brigadier is like, we need to search for bugs in the place we are. And the Doctor, meanwhile, gets picked up by Sarah and the Brigadier by a car. And apparently the eel thing is a cyborg, by the way, and kind of controlled. And the Doctor's like, who controls it? And then the signal was coming from
inside the house.
Loch Ness.
Wait, Loch Ness? What's that?
I hope you fucking know that the next 3 words in my notes are, and I'm fucking pissed. That was 4 words, sorry. God damn it. It's so dumb! It's the Loch Ness fucking monster! God fuck. Anyway, a man comes up.
It's not the dumbest thing that happens.
I know!
And it's also not the only episode with an explanation of the Loch Ness monster. We'll get to that one in the 80s.
Anyway, a man comes up and goes, don't tell me you found a monster in my lake. And they're like, yeah. And then the inn owner man is cleaning that. Okay, if you're on my Twitter, you may have seen it already. There's a deer that I might have posted.
There's a what?
There's a bad taxidermy deer image that I may have posted tonight.
Oh. You know this isn't going to come out for like a few weeks.
I know, but this is the funny part because people can go back and find it. Anyway, there was a really bad taxidermy deer in there, and I was like, "Look, it's bad taxidermy," and Cam was like, "Look, it's you," and I was just like, "All right." And at one point I was like, okay, they're looking for bugs. Check the giant fucking deer head you keep bringing up. And then Gam was like, no, it's not in there. And winds up, it's in there. It's the fucking...
The best part about it is that it looks like a deer that's like nervous about like, no, I'm not I'm not a normal deer.
I'm a normal
deer head. Look at me, I'm just a normal deer head. There's nothing wrong with me. Don't look at me. Haha, normal
it's
deer.
Like, its nose is like a centimeter big. So it's like its entire face got like, what's the thing I'm thinking of?
thick.
The, like, smear tool in Photoshop. Someone, like, did that. It just, like, pulled its nose out. Anyway, so the deer, by the way, that we're talking about, while the inn owner is cleaning it, it looks at him. And I got very angry that Cam duped me. And then Sir Uppity Man, please.
Listen, I have to dupe you.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I can't trust anything you say anymore, I know. It's fine. And then the Sir Uppity Man is like, please, listen, it chased us, the eel thing. And he's like, no. And the doctor's like, actually, yes. And they're like, all right. Well, too bad the deer cleaner dude, inn owner, gets killed by some calamari on Benton's watch. And also it took the deer's eyes, which mood. But then Benton gives a chase and shoot, you know, the good old chase and shoot. And it has to all do with oil. But also aliens.
Oil.
And the Loch Ness
Alien
monster.
oil.
Alien Loch Ness oil. So the nurse, quote unquote, is caught by the soldiers, but actually it was the calamari taker dude. And then Sarah is looking at some really old books, and Uppity Man is like, can you even fucking read Latin? And she's like, eh. And then a very real, not at all fake beard man brings Sarah a ladder, and then, like, basically just closes her off in the book room. Too bad Sarah has found the secret bookcase with the weird alien tech behind it. But also too bad she was seen going inside said room. Sarah finds Harry, can't actually tell if it is him, but then he's a dick to her and she's like, okay, it is you. And then, oops, that bookcase is opened again by the Brigadier and the Doctor, so they're all in the same room now. And the Doctor's like, I want to see what's in there. And he goes in there. And then he fucking screams. And the calamari have him and walk back into the weird fake door. And the Brig, meanwhile, is like, okay, to give him back. And they're like, no. And then the Brigadier loads a fucking rocket launcher, grenade launcher thing, fires it at the fucking lake as a threat to go like, hey, let the Doctor go. But too bad, they're like, ha 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 ha, fuck it. And their fucking ship starts taking off to run away.
So,
Yep.
quite a few fun facts in rapid fire. Number one, this episode was actually released on Laserdisc back in the day, 1998. If I remember right, very few episodes were, but this one was, which I still find incredibly fascinating that certain episodes were on Laserdisc. I would love to get something on Laserdisc someday and get like a Laserdisc player, just to like look at it, because like the concept of Laserdisc is fascinating to me. Anyway, I'm talking on a tangent. So the Zygons talk about their home world being destroyed. What we later learn, roughly, this is the 70s, so like 30 years later in our own time, is that was actually caused by, actually no, 40 years, because it was the special 50th anniversary that told us. Sorry, it was the Time War that destroyed it, which, you know, the last great Time War, Daleks versus Time Lords.
Yeah.
Lots of casualties, lots of people in between. But it's like, hey, reincorporation of things in the classic series in like a way that doesn't change things, but is like, hey, we could say that this was, it fits in neatly. So there's that. There's also Nicholas Courtney, who played the Brigadier, suggested to Philip Hinchcliffe, the producer, that the Brigadier should be killed off in this story, as he felt he would be no longer required in the show's new format. Because remember, they're moving away from UNIT. They're like, we're no longer doing that. We're going off to, like, alien planets and everything again. Like, no longer Earth stories to a bare minimum now. And if we do Earth stories, UNIT probably won't be involved. So he's like, kill the Brigadier then. Hinchcliffe turned the idea down, though, because he felt it would be inappropriate fate for a character who had been so vital to the program. Nicholas Courtney was, like, kind of upset by it. But I think in the end, I think he was okay with it. But at the time, he was unhappy with making the story because he thought he would be playing the Brigadier for the last time, and he felt sad that the character kind of just faded away instead of died.
Yeah.
Because he does he did audios and stuff, and who knows, he might show up in a future episode. Wink.
Wonk.
Wonk. I might be joking on that. But yeah, he was a bit upset that the Brigadier kind of just faded away instead of, having some sort of actual send-off. Originally, the script had a greater emphasis on the Scatterson and the Loch. Robert Holmes, the script editor, though, felt that the Zygons were way more interesting as characters, mainly because they could actually interact with the cast as well. So he was like, let's utilize them more, which is kind of what stops this episode from being a pretty okay to decent episode to being a really good one, is because it was written one way and then it got kind of changed last minute to be a little bit different. So it's a little bit unfocused in terms of what we're really doing here. Because in the grand scheme of things, when you think about it, the Zygons kind of do nothing. They don't really do anything.
Yeah.
They're kind of just ominously around. Then they're found out, and then they're like, oh, we'll kill this person. And then everyone's like, no, you won't. And they're like, yes, we will. And then stuff happens. It's it's not like they're enacting a plan. It's they just keep saying that they're going to enact it.
Mm-hmm.
But Ian Marter, who played Harry, found John Woodnut, who played the dude who owned everything.
The uppity guy, yeah.
The Duke of Forgill.
Yeah.
He every time during rehearsals he found him hilarious. So in location filming, you would see Ian Marter giggling when he was supposed to be scared.
Oh no.
Because he just couldn't take him seriously. But also John Woodnut, who played the Duke of Forgill, he spent so long trying to get the accent right, and he pointed out to the director that a laird would probably have been educated at Eton College and therefore would actually sound English. However, the director was like, no, I want a Scottish accent. So they kind of compromised a little bit in the end. It's an actor being like, well, I spent a lot of time on this, and the director being like, you're Scottish. Be Scottish.
But please, I'm so good at accents. Oh, man.
Please. Okay. Here's another little... We keep diving around the topic and never talking about it, because there's one episode that we have to do a deep dive on it, and it's in the 80s, because that's the episode that mainly caused the entire issue. But we're bringing it back again. The unit dating controversy. For those who don't remember or are unaware, the unit dating controversy stems from a problem of, in the 70s, Terrence Dix, as script editor, didn't want to put dates on episodes. They were always kind of just vaguely gestured as if it was okay, all of these unit stories with the Third Doctor, they're set 10 years in the future. So technically they're set in the 80s. But then you have certain things happening in episodes now and also future episodes where it's hang on a second, you're saying something that has just happened, but this happened in the 70s. For instance, in part 4 of this, the Brigadier is the Prime Minister's on the phone for you, Brigadier. And the Brigadier's like, oh, yes, okay. Hello, ma'am. Which, for those in the know, Margaret Thatcher is a bitch. That's it. But she also had only become the leader of the Conservative Party in February of 1975, 7 months before that episode was broadcast. So it's you could argue also the whole 80s, it's she's there, but it's it's very clear that Harry's not used to a woman in charge, so it's if he was in the 80s, he would know. And also it's things here and there, but it's the Margaret Thatcher here is kind of an important thing with the unit dating controversy. But again, we'll get to it when we get to an episode called Mordrin Undead, because that is the episode where they put solid dates on things and it completely fucks everything up. Long story short, it's hi, I retired from this organization in 1984, and it's but hang on, if it's stated that you joined in 1989, how could you have retired before you even joined? And it's oh no, we've created a whole problem. And, the show keeps coming back to it and joking about it. There's episodes, there's an episode in the new series where they're look under the old Brigadier's files for reference on this monster. It'll be under the 70s or 80s. Sort of joking about the fact of there's arguments for the episodes being set in the 70s or in the 80s. There's also some extended universe stuff that's written talking, like, trying to explain it. Like, there's one explanation where, because the Doctor visited the 60s, 70s, and 80s so often, like, time kind of slowly melded between the two and, like, folded upon it. So, like, they kind of had 2 decades within the span of 10 years. Which, you know, is a dumb explanation, but it's like a fun way of like, hey, here's a fun, dumb in-universe explanation for it. Lots of fun shit like that. Like they have fun with continuity errors in this, which I always love. But yes, that's that. I'll let you continue and tell me what happens in the final part here.
Well, they're in a ship, right?
Are they?
Yeah, the ship took off. The calamari. They're running off to go hide, right?
Oh, yeah, the calamari.
Yeah. And Sarah finds some papers on a desk about an energy commission or something, and then they just kind of leave. The ship is going into hide, and they have no outside communication, so the Brigadier has lost contact with the ship, and they cannot follow it. And the Doctor's like, what's this button do? And the calamari's like, are you interested in our things? Then also, we learn about how apparently a fleet of them is coming to Earth, so they want to recreate the Earth to be like their home planet. It's a lot. In comes the Brigadier, mentions...
Well, yeah, they're trying to colonize.
Yeah, mentions there's an underwater thingy moving. It's probably that fish. Margaret Thatcher calls. Brigadier's like, hey, what's up? And she tells him to do some shit. And then the Doctor uses himself as a fucking wire in the alien ship to start a signal, and he's screaming and in pain, and he's dead. He's not dead, actually. They think he's dead, though. Anyway, it's time for the 5G to be activated on its target so they can rule over everything in Earth ever. And the Doctor pulls the Duke out of his orgy mind transfer as well as the others. But an alarm goes off that he sets off. And everyone hides in their orgy chambers while the calamari ignore them. And they're like, okay, they're going to find out that it was fake. Run. And they all run.
Did you just say orangey or orgy?
Orgy. Orgy chambers.
Oh, okay.
Because I made the joke that, like, hey, Sarah comes up, she's like, oh, what are all these sex toys doing? It was the thing. Anyway, the Doctor finds a self-destruction tumor and, like, touches it a bunch and turns it on before they're like, we should go, and everybody runs away. And then the ship blows up, and, by the way, London is still probably under attack, so let's go there.
London
Uppity
bound.
Man with the 5G has gotten into the place he wanted, so he can fuck up stuff because it's very real Uppity Man. You know, it's the warmonger dude, calamari dude. And the Doctor comes and goes, listen, you lost, give up. And he's like, no, and he attacks them. And then the Brigadier walks in with some guns and shoots him and he's dead. Outside, by the way, that eel is here and he's in the fucking Thames and everyone is screaming. And the Doctor plays fetch with it and it eats it and then it leaves. So it wanted to eat its own poop and then left. Before heading back, I guess, to Loch Ness. And then the crew heads back to the TARDIS, and the Doctor's like, who wants to come along? Let's just go to London. It's like 5 minutes previous, right? And you're like, no. And Sarah's the only one that wants to go, so bye, Harry. And then they leave. Yeah. And that's it.
Yep. Yep. Harry's no longer with us, thank God. But also, you know, oh well. I much rather when it's just the Doctor and Sarah. They have such better chemistry together as, like, just companions traveling. Harry kind of gets in the way of that and is, like, just kind of... He's that, like, annoying friend that doesn't understand why something's fun. Like, it's like you and a friend, like, joking about, haha, yeah, this is really funny, and then another friend coming along who isn't, like, in the know and is like, haha, yeah, am I right? And you're like, shut up. You know, fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the Doctor constantly making fun of Harry and Harry kind of being shitty to Sarah. It's like, fuck off, Harry. But yes, this is also in that, because remember, this was meant to be a season finale. This is why it's a little bit awkward, because it's like we have a season opener where a companion leaves, which doesn't happen. Companions tend to leave at the end of a season, because, you know, contracts and everything, it makes it easier for them to do that. But he leaves at technically the beginning of this season, which is a unique. Plus, also, it's one of the only times in the show where a companion is traveling with the Doctor, then another companion shows up, and then that second companion leaves first. Because what tends to happen is a companion's traveling, then another companion joins, and the first one leaves, and the second one becomes the main companion. Is, changing of the garb type thing.
Yeah.
But there's a very rare situation where a companion will be with the Doctor, someone else will join, and then that second person will leave before the first one leaves. Arguably, there's only 2 times in the TV show where that actually happens. First, it's Jamie with Victoria, because, Jamie was traveling with the second Doctor, and then Victoria showed up, and then Victoria left, and Jamie kept going with the Doctor. There's also this time where 4th Doctor's with Sarah, and then Harry, I forgot his name, shows up, and then Harry leaves. Arguably, there's also an example with the 1st Doctor, but I don't want to talk about them because the episode's still missing, and I don't want to spoil anything about them because I really want to fucking watch them someday. And just BBC, can you please remaster the Mythmakers and the Daleks Master Plan? Please, just please remaster it. Animate it with the new animation style if you need to. Like, I don't care. Just please, I want more people to see the Daleks Master Plan. It's so goofy. Please. Anyway, yeah. So this is why it's a little bit weird. Like even you acknowledged it. You were like, oh, like this is a bit weird that like Harry's just not going and he's staying. And it's like it helps to remember that in the beginning Harry kind of didn't want to travel. He kind of accidentally traveled because he was like, "Oh, Doctor, where are you going?" And the Doctor's like, "Oh, I'm off in my time machine." And Harry's like, "That's not a time machine." He's like, "Yes, it is. Come and have a look." And Harry's like, "Okay." And then he went in. It's like, "Oh, this is a time machine. Can I go home?" And the Doctor's like, "No." So it's like he's finally home now, and he's like, no, I'm not getting in that thing ever again. I'm like, I had my fill. I'm good now.
I think that whole thing was that he was like, oh yay, I'm going, but also he was like, can we go home? Quite a lot. So
yeah, it's like this is fun and all, but like we are going home, right? Like we are going home, right?
Oh
right?
God, please.
But yeah, Terror of the Zygons. The Zygons are such an underutilized monster. They don't show up at all for the rest of the classic series at all. This is the only appearance of them. There's like books with them and audios with them, and maybe they show up in the new series. I'll never tell. But yeah, they were originally there were 2 episodes where they were meant to show up, but one of them didn't get filmed because of a strike going on, and the other fell apart because the show got cancelled. The E80s for a time. So yeah, it's such a shame because like the Zygons, I feel there is so much you can do with it. Like I didn't really explain where the episode came from because it's not really that interesting. It's more just like a case of exploiting the same thing that they've done in the past of like doppelgangers and such, and kind of playing on like Scottish folk tales of like doppelgangers, fetchers, and shapeshifters, and folk that become human crop. There's like fairies stealing human children and replacing them with changelings, like that sort of thing. All sorts of things. Also, oil. At the time, I believe oil was like being criticized as like, hey, maybe having a power based on this is a bad idea. We should have, I think, hydrogen power or something to do with I forget what it is. Hydrogen power source was like more up and coming as like, hey, we should do this. But oil and coal lobbies are, especially in the UK at the time, coal was massive, like massive industry in the UK. Well, until Margaret Thatcher fucking demolished it, with her union busting methods of being a cunt. Anyway, so that's Terror of the Zygons. What do you think, dear?
3-ish.
3? Really?
Yeah. There was so much going on. Like, okay, you have this thing in the loch that has been there for a really long time, right?
Oh, wait, hang on. I feel like there's something I should tell you because I think you might have missed it.
What? They brought it there. I know they brought it there.
Do you know why they brought it there?
No. To raise it?
So, the Scarrison is technically their food source.
Okay.
but they don't eat the meat.
They ate the poop. Got it.
No, they technically drink its, well, not drink its milk, but like they milk it essentially.
Okay. Anyway, the point that I'm getting at is like they didn't need to be aliens for one. They could have just been in the ocean, sort of thing. Like the doctor even makes the point of like there's always something in the ocean, right? Because there is. The ocean's huge and deep, and we've explored more of the fucking surface of the moon than we have our own ocean in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
And it adding aliens onto that, as well as like a tracking thing that like the monster follows that is like organic, was like weird because they made it seem like it was part animal and that's why it followed it, when instead they could have just been like, it's a cyborg, we semi-control it, we just tell it what to do, instead of needing the tracking thing and needing it to be aliens and throwing more stuff into it. And like, I don't know, it's weird. Like there's just too much. Does that make sense?
That's fair. I think the thing is like the tracking was, because they don't really explain it that well.
Mm-hmm.
The way the tracking works is like it's a cyborg. In the reason why the Scaracin is a cyborg is essentially like the same reason that like cows have fences put around them. It's like a way of domesticating it in a sense.
That's fair.
It's like their version of like a leash on it, but it's like they don't really explain it that well. And like the tracking device they have is part organic because it's like it like all of their technology is part organic, but it's like basically devised from the Scaracin. So it's like it's like a dog whistle. It's essentially their version of a dog whistle.
Yeah.
It's like the Scaracin is attracted to it, and that's how they control it. Like they can't actually control the brain of the Scaracin. It's like a sheepdog. It's like you don't control a sheep by like just like yelling at a sheep or like radio controlling like sheep go this way. Like you get a sheepdog to tell them. It's kind of like that, but I completely agree they do not really do a good job of explaining it, and that's kind of because of the whole like the Zygons.
So
they shifted the story focus.
So I guess
as they were writing it.
My biggest example that I can think of off the top of my head, first episode, right? Harry gets shot, all that bullshit. Why did he need to be shot? Why do we need to worry about Harry? Sort of thing. And if, like, I admit, like, they needed to knock him out to be able to take him, but, like, they found the parts of the oil rig, right? And because they made a cast and they were like, it's teeth. But what stops them from, like, finding a black box recording of, like, when it was attacked and, like, learning that, and then someone just kidnaps Harry? He didn't need to go to the beach.
Do oil rigs have black boxes?
No, but you could make something like that. Be like, it was in the deep ocean, and because UNIT put black boxes on all of them because we were monitoring shit. They could do something like that is what I'm coming up with, right? Instead of, like, having to watch, like, this man come up onto the beach, be dead, quote unquote, run up to Harry, and then actually die by being shot. Like, was there a point to that? Are we not going to worry about that dead body? Like,
well, the point of it was that like he was the reason the dude was there to begin with the gun was like to make sure that he was actually dead.
Yeah,
and the reason why he had to make sure he was dead because he survived the oil rig. So it's like that's why he shoots Harry as well, because it's like he sees that the dude is talking to Harry, and it's like, oh, he told Harry what happened, so it's like, I've got to kill Harry too.
Basically, it's like, we need to get from point A to point B, and they're like, let's take point A to point B, but also let's do this stop over here, let's go and get some gas, let's pick up a bit of food too. Actually, why not? Sort of thing. Like, let's go shopping at Pier 1. There's a Pier 1 on the way, let's go to that. Like, for no fucking reason. It's a lot of things added on that they did not need, in my opinion.
That's fair. I think that is purely because of like the change of focus in script halfway through.
Yeah.
Because because of it, like changing focus meant they had to kind of rewrite some things and like add a few things here. It's like you then have these elements where it's like it makes sense, but like it kind of bloats the story a tiny bit in that way, because it's like, why did you do this when like with the way the story goes out, you could have like written it a better way. So it's like, I think you're right in that sort of sense. I understand where you're coming from, and it's like I think it's purely because of that, purely because of the way it was rewritten. Next episode though, oh boy, we are in full Philip Hinchcliffe territory.
I have a new idea. Give me the like 1 or 2 words from the title, and I want to try to figure out what the title is.
The title's only 3 words.
Okay, well, it's so like War of the Daleks. Just be like the Daleks, right?
Okay.
So
Planet of.
Oh, it's gonna be a fucking alien name that I don't know, isn't it?
No.
No.
It's a human word. English word.
Insects.
Do you want me to give you a hint?
Insects.
Not insect.
Fuck. I tried.
Do you want me to give you a hint?
Sure.
Because I'll continue what I was going to say. We're in full Philip Hinchcliffe territory, and the one thing that Philip Hinchcliffe really wanted to do with Doctor Who was make it more horrifying. Give us some more cosmic sort of space horror, and particularly with this episode, he wanted it to kind of rival Star Trek. Because remember original series Star Trek, as goofy as it is, a lot of episodes of it were kind of horror stories.
Body Snatchers.
Body Snatchers, no, but that is a future episode in this season.
Okay, I give up. What was it?
Evil. Planet of Evil.
Really? Okay.
This episode actually kind of scared a lot of kids. Personally, I like this one because it's quite a lot of fun. And it's like, you know, finally it's Sarah. The costumes look ridiculous, and I love them. They're pure 70s. And Sarah's outfit, I love. It's a really cute outfit. Because, you know, she changes outfits every fucking episode, basically, from here on out. Which, you know, she doesn't have to, but, I mean, the outfits she wears for most of them are really nice. So, that's cool. But yeah, Planet of Evil is next. Let's have some fun on the Planet of Evil, dear.
Woo!
Anything else you want to say?
Nah.
Okay, well, the last thing I want to say is, dear, are you a bug? I meant an electronic bug.
Oh.
What the fuck? See you next episode.